Alright guys, you guys seeing what I'm seeing over there? Take a close look. It's one of those $25 pre-tariffed motherboards. As you can see right there, it's a bit nervous. Bit of a nervous board. I'm gonna try to catch it. It's right where I want you.
Alright guys, so why am I capturing this motherboard, this Chinese motherboard? Well, first of all, this is a pretty insane deal. Let me show you guys what I got going on here. So as many of you know, the tariffs have kind of taken control of this cheaper Chinese market, and this is just a very basic X99 motherboard. There's nothing too crazy about this. Looking at this board, I'll throw it up on the screen. There's not a whole lot going on, nothing crazy on the VRMs up here. It's a very basic board, but it does work well with these Xeons. And this is actually a 14 core. It's the 2680 V4, and you'll be pretty surprised at how well this actually games considering what it is. Also, I did pick this up separately. These were $20. This is a kit of DDR4, 3200 by Kingbank. I'm actually not familiar with this brand. Very, very cheap brand, but everything here, CPU, RAM, and the motherboard all together came to about $70. And here's the great thing about this board. These are still available from AliExpress in the United States.
So when I first bought this board, I wasn't even thinking about the tariff situation, and I didn't want to pay like 2 to 3 times the price for this board. So I reached out to the seller, and the guy actually told me that they ship them from a factory in the United States, and there's tons of them available for stock. And that's why you'll see things like guaranteed delivery by June 3rd, because it's actually coming from a warehouse in California and not from some boat overseas.
So if you're trying to build a really, really budget PC, right now, this is kind of a really good option. I'll throw the total up on the screen, but I'm throwing in some other stuff too. We got some fans. I also have this P300 SSD that was $28. I think it goes on sale at this time. When I bought it, it was $28. Right now, I think it's like 34 or 35, but pretty cheap. So altogether, all of this so far with these fans were $30 for 6. We're looking at about 130 bucks, 120 bucks. We're gonna be using this really budget-friendly T3 Plus from Zalman. For PSU, I know it's a little bit crazy, but we're gonna be using this 750 watt P2. It is a platinum power supply. This is nuts. I would not normally use this, but I have a surplus of these kicking around as well. Sorry. Yeah, so I got a bunch of these from Min that he dropped off. We want to put them to use, so I can let them sit around forever until that special build shows up, or I can just use it. They were really, really cheap, and yeah. I don't know if I should do this or not, but because the case is from Zalman, I kind of wanted to joke around and use this Zalman cooler from a long time ago, but I think I'm gonna use something else.
So I foolishly had the microphone pointing directly into my table fan, and I'm not going to force you guys to listen to that, but let's get through this. I'm basically just popping in the CPU and popping in the memory modules. We have 2, so we're going to use the outer orange slots, and just remember that the CPU has the text on X99 facing down, and the arrow is facing up.
Also, just to be fair, I am going to be using this really budget-friendly Cooler Master Hyper 212. This is an older model. I'm going to add in $8 for this because I get these for free all the time. They're not in like super great condition or anything, but they work pretty well. This one is probably the cleanest one I've had in a while. But for like $8 to $15, you can find a pretty decent, cheap cooler for something like this.
I had a few Debbie Downers pretty pissed off about my excessive thermal paste use on these huge IHS shields on the X99 and X79 CPUs. So all I'm going to say to that is, for one, again, this is a budget setup, so we're not going to use some super expensive thermal paste, so throw that away. And then secondly, the X is pretty decent. It does a pretty good job. It's been shown online to cover a majority of the area.
This time I remember to take out these things first. Wow, I'm a genius. It does come with a really crappy I/O shield, so make sure you kind of push these things back. There's things for Wi-Fi, I guess. And yeah, audio always on the bottom. Pop this in real quick. And then another thing, guys, this case, wow. It's hard to explain how cheap this case is. I mean, it's still okay, it does the job, but it is very cheap. We're gonna have to move one of the standoffs up just one spot. So this guy right here is gonna come up one spot. As this board fills this bottom, as you can see there, it'll fill that bottom little spot. So let's move this up real quick. All right, I've already done you guys the courtesy of mounting the fan, so you don't have to watch me do that. I'm gonna throw in the other fans real quick too without filming all of that, as This isn't a build vlog. Something to think about this kind of situation happening here. As you can see, if we look at there, and then we look at right here, the copper is going to be really close with the edge of the case. Like, we're talking, it'll work, but this is kind of what happens when you play with these cheaper PC cases like this. So, just something I wanted to point out.
At this point, I think it's probably a good idea to mention the GPU. This is the 1660 non-super. These can be had for about $50 to $90 on eBay. If you really look, they are there. The reason I'm sticking with this is to keep that price down below $300. I understand I could go with something faster, and ideally you should, but this is the best way to do a budget system like this.
I am aware that this power supply is massively overkill for the system, but I want to say a couple things. I could go and sell this on eBay, but the problem is it's going to take a little while. I have a bunch of power supplies. It's like I need to get through some of these, and I want to give something like this to somebody, so maybe in the future they'll think about upgrading, coming back to me, and when they're like, hey, do I need to upgrade my 750 watt platinum, I can just say, hey, no, we really hooked that up, so yeah, let's upgrade something else first. I am seeing that in this case we have one of these really cheap hard drive bay things. This is actually gonna have to come out to fit the power supply. And this power supply, like any good power supply should be, is facing down. So I want to say one more thing about this power supply. I will factor in a budget-orientated brand new power supply so that if you guys want to recreate this build, you can do that. So one quick thing to note with these boxes like this one here, this is obviously a PWM, which is much better than the other like 6-pin ones you can get. Since this board has no RGB, no ARGB, no 5 volt, no 12 volt, we're gonna have to use the PC case's reset switch as the RGB changer. So we're gonna plug that into this area here on the hub so that when you hit the reset button, it cycles through the RGB. Cover on so we don't get it all scratched up. And again, really cheap looking front cover, but it is what it is. All right, what do you guys think? I think it looks pretty good for a super budget job. This obviously looks like a mess. Again, this is kind of a lot of work to do. Lots of cables, but the fans are really cheap. So here's a reason why you guys should spend time cable managing. You can take this door, this really crappy door, and just pop it right on. If you do a good job, it should just fit. So let's see, will it fit? I should be able to one-hand this. Okay, top is pretty good. Little bulge going on right here, but nobody, you know, people don't, I'm not gonna say anymore. All right, nice and flat. Look at it from the side or the back. Not too much bolting. Hooray! Now it's time to throw in the old tired GPU. So hopefully this fits nice. I did notice some of my cables moved quite a bit down here, so just be careful with your cables. Finally, time to plug in the GPU. Ooh, got some cable combs. This is actually a real cable that came with this power supply. So there's only 3 combs, but it is what it is. All right, everybody, it's time to do a test boot. I'll be honest with you, I did a test boot already just to make sure the board worked because I've had it for a couple of weeks and I didn't want to have to return it, broken, whatever. But there's a chance that the card might not work or something else in the build, like the SSD I put in there. Also, you can't even see that SSD, so I didn't even cover it up. But yeah, let's turn it on for the second time, I think it is. This will be the first time with the GPU. And that looks really nice with all the fans. And to cycle through the colors, you hit up here. And let's see if we get a post. There we go. So, like I was saying, these BIOSes are really, really basic, but we can see that the 16 gigs of RAM is showing up, which is good. Yeah, basically that's it, guys. We're gonna jump right into Windows, and I'm gonna load up some games. All right, guys, starting out with Call of Dudes, and I know a lot of you guys don't like this game, but the problem with this game is that it is kind of hard to run for an esports title, and almost everybody who buys a computer from me asks how Call of Duty runs. So I almost always get benchmark numbers for this game no matter what. I do personally enjoy it. That being said, right now we are on a pretty small map, which is running surprisingly not that good. I was actually playing a game earlier and I was getting about 100 FPS average. So this is one of those games where the maps are really going to vary. You're not going to see the same performance across all the different maps. But that being said, it does run okay. I'm not super happy with it per se, but all right, guys, we are playing a larger map. This map is called Haven, and yeah, it's running a little bit better than the other one. I'm not doing well at all right now because I'm trying to talk to the camera and talk to you guys, but I think my overall takeaway from this experience is if you're going to try to make this your main game on this system, I would probably try to stretch for a better card. It's just, Call of Duty is too much of a Twitch shooter. You really need like a decent performing system to be able to have a really good time. I feel like I'm suffering a little bit, I'm gonna be honest. I would still advertise this and say, you know, maybe somebody could get used to it. Maybe I'm just bad at the game, who knows? I do play okay on my main system, but that being said, yeah. To compare this to the other benchmarks though, and I'm gonna show you guys in a minute in Doom Eternal, this actually runs a lot better. So esports stuff other than Call of Duty, I don't think you're gonna have a bad time playing. Let me see if I can get another kill. This is getting ridiculous.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Jumping on over to CyberPunk. This game just looks fantastic even at the lowest settings, but as you can see, the 1660 is getting crushed. Below 60 FPS, dropping all the way to the 40s. And I did take advice from somebody. I got to explain this. So in my last video, I actually had a few stutters running this on a 1660 Super, and what ended up happening was this game needs to be on an SSD, and particularly an NVMe SSD is the best, even in a 2.5, but I had it running on a hard drive. I know it's not supposed to be like that, but I was doing that to keep the budget as far down as possible, so, and I kind of mentioned that in the video too. That being said, in this, I moved it over to the SSD. I do have a nicer, bigger 500 gig. We were in this exact same spot last time when we were seeing major dips after attacking this. So let's see if we can keep up the performance. Looks like we're at like 70 right now. If I attack this guy, how much are we gonna dip into, I don't know, the 30s? Like last time we were dipping way into the 30s. This is a little bit of a different setup, similar in some ways, X99 versus X79, and 1650 Super, or 1660 Super versus 1660. So it looks like we're doing a little bit worse, probably because of this non-super variant, but yeah, if you look at the usage of the CPU, we're all the way up at 65–60% usage. So this is using a lot of the CPU, even though it's a pretty big 14-core CPU. It doesn't matter. I am running OBS in the background, but let's get out of here because we're not gonna actually survive this. I guess my suggestion is, if you're gonna be running any of these AAA games and you're building a system like this, try to get something like a 2060 Super. They're a little bit more money. Or even like a 6600 XT, 6700 XT. Those cards are more money, but you'll be able to use this system without having too many problems. Now, when it comes to visuals, I think this game looks absolutely amazing, even at the low settings. Like, there's just so much detail. This is not like Call of Duty. Call of Duty actually looks really bad at the low settings. This looks very, very good, very playable. Even if we run up to some of these characters, it's like low poly, but still half decent looking. There's not like huge missing textures anywhere. Nothing crazy. What's going on down here? Yeah, nothing crazy going on. All right, up last, we are using Doom Eternal. I know it's a little bit older. The new Doom is coming out right around the corner, so I figured we should try this out. Although I've heard the new Doom has some problems, which kind of sucks because Doom has always run really well. You're going to see that in this game. We're running at all high settings. There are a few things I've noticed. I did try this a little bit before I started recording. There was some stuttering. I'm sure we could get things down to a better performing level. But yeah, so let's jump right into this and let's see how it runs. And as you can see, right up in the corner, we're starting off at around 160, but it's gonna drop down. I always forget how much I hate this level because of the stupid things everywhere. But yeah, the reason why I wanted to show this off too is that this is gonna be a better idea of how this is gonna perform in esports titles, something like CSGO or whatever. You're gonna have high performance like this. And again, we're at high, so I could lower this. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm gonna go over here. Yeah, so we had a hard stutter right there. I haven't played much, so the game could be actually just rendering out right now, or actually like loading shaders in the background. Let's get on this thing. I'm pretty sure this is what you do. I forget. Yep. But yeah, let's see how we fare out here. See a little more action. I'm pretty sure I got stuck at this point because I had no health, and I'm seeing that same problem. Yep. Since I had to load back in, let's see what happens if we drop the settings to low. The game actually does not look that much worse, but the performance is only a little bit higher, it seems like. So maybe medium and high settings, or a mixture of them, would be best for this game. That being said, it still looks pretty good at 1080p. As I said again and again, low settings is not like low settings of the past. Low settings today is quite beautiful. Another thing too, guys, I play all my FPS games with a mouse and keyboard, except for this game. For whatever reason, I always play this game on the couch in my house. So, yeah, I'm not used to actually playing it with mouse and keyboard, so I forget some of the controls. What do we do here? What do we do? Hit this thing? Or maybe it's this way? Oh yeah, it's this way. I'm getting my ass kicked. This is why every time. So it would be silly if I left you guys with a 14 core with no Cinebench number. So let's see what the Cinebench number is. We're gonna do a multi-core. I know the single-threaded performance is gonna be pretty weak based on the frequency that this runs at, but 14 cores, we should be able to see a pretty decent number coming off this. At least something comparable to a older i7. So let's let this run through. All right, guys, we got a score of 10,903, which is beating the i9-9880H CPU, which is a laptop CPU from back around 2020, so not too bad. Quite a bit faster than the 1700X. Yeah, so not a great score. If you overclock this CPU, you can get much higher numbers, but unfortunately this BIOS is very locked down, and I wouldn't suggest it for anyone who's just trying to get a cheap budget system. That being said, this is 14 cores. You can do productivity stuff. This would be great for a server. This would be great for anything like light that could use those cores without having to blast them all the time. That being said, you could still video edit and still do photo editing on this very easily. So I think that's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. The main point of this was to show you that you can really build something for pretty cheap with newer parts without having these one-off deals on Facebook Marketplace or any of the other sites that sell stuff like Craigslist and stuff. Proves that you can have a decent experience at a low cost. It'll continue to be this way as far as I know in North America, as long as the tariff stuff doesn't affect everybody, which it will eventually, but there are going to be things that will probably linger around for a long time. And these motherboards, you know, I see them all over the internet, so we're going to have probably a decent amount of time of them not being purchased. So I think if you're, you know, starting a little flipping business, or even if you're trying to build something for a relative, a young kid, this is kind of a good starting point. Obviously, I know there's going to be a ton of people that say, oh, you need to run out and buy, you know, Ryzen 2600X or something. And sure, a lot of those are a good deal, but they're also like $45 on average, $30, $45. If you can spend the money, obviously go with like a 3600X or something for a real budget system. But if you're really looking to cut cost, $25 motherboard, $20 RAM, $10 CPU, I mean, this is the way to go.